to export their values and norms, with values and norms have been couched in human rights principles onto less fortunate countries like ours. It's just an attempt to bring about a new world order. And a world order that will tolerate a girl marrying a girl, or a woman marrying a woman. A world order that will tolerate a man marrying a man. A world order that will tolerate women saying, well, I'm even anti-marriage, I will not marry. A world order that my good brother Kusi Pratt told me will allow even women to decide to marry animals. That's what they are trying to bring. And you must understand that the decision to introduce the CSE at the basic level, at the lowest of levels, has a purpose. Mm-hmm. That when you start education at that level, teaching the children new things, by the time they mature, it becomes part of them and so acceptable. That was why it was not a mistake. It was not a mistake. Social scientists will say, by the time they mature, there would have been a revolution, a total change from the position in which they started to new human beings. And that change will allow us to tolerate the, what do you call, LGBT. Yeah, will tolerate it. And so that's why Sweden and Ireland have elected to support UNESCO to implement that program. Okay? And they couch it in terms of human rights. But let's come back to our country. Mujib, you know that as a people, morality education has always been part of our traditions. All of us. I'll cite the case of my brothers in the Eastern region. Depot was not a festival. Depot is not a festival. Depot is sexuality education. One, differentiates women from men. Two, celebrates those who have been able to remain chaste until they attain puberty. Three, encourages societies or people of the Krobo tradition to try to emulate those who have been able to safeguard the chastity of their girls by parading those girls who have succeeded in doing that before everybody and celebrating them. That's sexuality education. But the white man, when he came, he thought that we were showing the breasts of young girls. And so it was backward. I don't know where you come from in Ghana, but in the Upper West region, we've got the Bakri among the Dagatis. It's a ceremony of initiation where you must reach a certain age and then you have arrived. And then you can be accorded the respects of an adult. That you must live a certain life even while undergoing training to get there. That is why I said in my introductory remarks that what we are fighting against is not comprehensive sexuality education, but comprehensive sexuality education in the way that it has been introduced. Because the way the sexuality education has been introduced is inconsistent with our values and norms. Very, very inconsistent. In the Akan language, is loaded with principle that don't hasten to teach a child what the child will know as the child goes through life. Don't hasten. Why do you want to hasten the process? And in any case, are we saying that in our society, or our various traditional societies and communities, we could not identify strains of moral behavior, strains of sexual behavior, which will secure the total development of those communities and develop those standards and make them national standards? Is that what we are saying? Are we saying that our standards, our norms, our values are so backward that we need to import hook, line, and sinker the values and norms of persons outside the country? Is that what we are saying? That defeats us as a people. Then you find government again, and that is the problem with policy making. Policy making must synchronize the views of a majority of the people who will be affected by the policy. So when you introduce comprehensive sexuality education, then you have the Catholic Secretariat, which is a key partner in the provision of education in Ghana. Then you have Pentecostal Council, a key partner. You have the Ahmadiyya movement, key partner. You have the Islamic Tijaniya and Sunni, all of them against it. Then you ask yourself, so who did you consult? How was the consultation done? Again, you see, that betrays the lack of consultation and the impunity with which government of the MPP works. So who did they consult? Who did they consult? Now, so when this matter broke out, then you would find, this was the first time actually that a policy of John Mahama was a good policy. MPP since they came into office have never continued what they believe John Mahama started. But for CSE, they said that, oh, John Mahama started it.
The project they left will continue.
Which one? Okay, let him finish.
Education project, road project.
Your father is watching you.
You know, for this one, they say, oh, don't be happy, and this is being hypocritical. Oh, they started it, and then we are only continuing. Oh, for sexuality education. No, you see, you have to accept that for the first time that we heard about sexuality, comprehensive sexuality education in Parliament, was when the Minister of Finance came to Parliament. In paragraph 369 of the budget, said that the National Populating Council, together with stakeholders, had designed guidelines for the introduction of sexuality, comprehensive sexuality education, consistent with the Sustainable Development Goals 17. Okay, that was the first time, and that it was going to be introduced this September. The Minister of Education has been quoted severally, assuring everybody that this matter was to be introduced in 2017. So, again, the deceit, the lies, the dishonesty has been exposed by even the minister. Because you can't start something in September 2019 when it is a continuation. Okay, it means that thing was in existence. So it can never be a continuation to be started in 2019. No. So that's, you see, that's the inconsistency. But when they were saying that the thing was, they mistook the family and reproductive health that was being taught as comprehensive sexuality education. They are two different things. And so for me, this is a matter that government, and I like your concluding remarks, this is a matter that government must go back and tell our development partners that our people have rejected. Our people have rejected the way in which comprehensive sexuality education is being introduced into Ghana. And what is more damning, you see, is the loss of credibility by government in this matter. The United Nations Fund for Population Activities head in Ghana, NAI, stated boldly that this comprehensive education, comprehensive sexuality education was developed by this government. And that this government presented it to them for funding. So how do you think NAI will regard the government now? How do you think NAI will regard the government? You see, so there are certain things that it's better to always admit that probably this time we gauged the temperature of the people, the emotions of the people, the tolerance level of the people wrongly, and that we might, and that is what happened when we introduced VAT, not so?
Yeah, sure.
The VAT in 1996 was resisted by the MPP.
By Ghanaians, not
Yes, by the MPP, and the MPP was able to mobilize Ghanaians to resist it. When that was done, we didn't force it down the throat of Ghanaians. It was withdrawn and then repackaged and brought back. And today everybody is with that. Everybody is with that. And so I think that government should admit that this satanic engagement was wrong. No matter how comprehensive, it was wrong. That is a moral attack on the culture of our people, and that is a terrorist attack on the morals of our people.
Thank you very much. Well, if you get to us, you're watching the Mother of All talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We're talking about the issues surrounding the comprehensive sexuality education. And let me read a couple of the messages you are sending to us through the Pan-African TV platform on Facebook. Hamza Al-Hassan says, every policy of Akufo-Addo's government is for the sole benefit of himself, his family and friends. He doesn't care about Ghanaians, including those who continue to support and defend him. That is why I feel sorry for people like Mujid, who sold their conscience. Thank you very much for that message. Fuseni, I think I should avoid that name. Fuseni Sani Turawa says, send this from Asamanke. Says, good morning, Sana, and your panel, especially Uncle Kwesi Pratt. Sana, as long as the comprehensive sexuality education can be found in the teacher's training manual, page 11, this inept government led by Nana Akufo-Addo should not be trusted at all. And I urge all religious leaders to continue criticizing the evil policy till it is completely removed from the syllabus. And tell Vice President Bawumia, Ghanaians will not eat percentage. Good morning. Good morning to you. To Egu Farouk internally says, good morning to you, Senna, and to your able panel. If you have confused and clueless government, they will always blame the previous government for their incompetence. The CSC program is inhuman and barbaric. The president must speak. The money received from Sweden is known now. Alassana Wow says the New Patriotic Party is bent on indoctrinating the practice of gay and lesbianism to these young children. The practice is an affront to our moral beliefs and practices. We will resist it with all the force that it deserves. My regards to Honorable Inusa Husseini, and also to Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed. Thank you very much, Alassane, for that message. Frederick Akwa says, to leave education in the hands of a bunch certainly will lead to such bankrupt, evil, and culture destabilizing curriculum. One paid for by colonialists and therefore quick to be implemented. Nanado and his IDS bankrupt NAPO clearly are interested in making money, irrespective of the effect on the nation. Baby Alassane, I hope I got the name right, says, Mr. Sana, we need to abolish that CSE totally from our educational system. Thank you for that message. Willie Glover says, NDC, my party, is full of hypocrites. I'm not voting. You introduced this far back in 2015. Why talking as if this is new? Teacher Constitution in Wamwasi says, so without comprehensive sexuality education, the NDC does not have a message. The NDC should come with their campaign message for 2020 and stop making unnecessary noise. Thank you very much for those messages. Keep them coming. Ambassador Secretary.
Well, Senator and my co-panelists, good morning. This morning I am so happy that my nephew Mujid has recognized who Kwame Nkrumah was. And that if Kwame Nkrumah had not been removed, we would not be where we are. He had made very honest statements that but for the 1966 coup, Ghana would not be a slave to the colonial imperialism. Thank you very much for that acknowledgement. Well, Ghana beyond aid means protecting Ghana's resources. It does not mean that when you arrest a Chinese who is destroying your environment, taking away your gold, you set her free. Ghana beyond aid does not mean that you rent a plane for about $19,000 an hour for over 2 weeks. Ghana beyond aid does not mean that you employ over 120 ministers, pay them for doing nothing. Ghana beyond aid does not mean that you employ about 100,000 people, young people into NAPCO and get them to do nothing. And even when you have posted them, the ministries that you have posted them are overcrowded and therefore are not adding to productivity. So you have to be measured in what you do for us to say that we should commend your president. Now, you also said that Ghana had signed a lot of international agreements and therefore we are bound by them. This is, under international relations, a very wrong appreciation of international law. Because even when you go to sign an international agreement, you have to domesticate that agreement. It has to be put into your local laws to make it effective. Now, again, if all international agreements, conventions are compulsory, Israel should not be occupying Palestine by now. Because there are so many international conventions, treaties that have been signed against Israel's unlawful occupation of the Palestinian lands. If international laws are to be obeyed, America will not be doing what it's doing in Venezuela. So, what I'm doing, know that there are some people in Ghana who knows a lot more than the propaganda people put. Now, another was spot on when he said that policies, a policy of a government can change the fortunes of people. Policies. No country is changed by terms. No country is changed by people having like a bond. It is changed by policy. So if we make policy, the country will be changed. So it took America, somebody who said no, Kennedy, who said, I put the man on the moon. That's a policy, and people followed it. So if you understand what I'm saying, so it can have policies that involve the country, and you can also have pernicious policies that will benefit your country. And I'm going to take you through some of the pernicious policies that have put this country where we are now. Even in our best intentions to introduce free senior high school, what are the philosophical underpinnings of the free senior high school, and how has it been implemented? Some important university here and say that you are incapable of paying your children's school fees. Even the is incapable of paying his children's school fees. And therefore, I need free education. And these voices of simplistic and understanding. Because for example, the former famous was now saying that senior high school is not that the government is spending. You understand? And it's also not that the government is seeking money from to every free senior high school project. It is our own taxes that is funding the free senior high school project. And talking on policy. Policy, its implementation is as important as the policy formulation. Because the policy implementation that will serve and change them. We introduce free senior high school. We are saying we are going to progressive free senior high school. It's so little. It's an instant. You go to a school speech day and in July and say by September there will be free senior high school, right? You don't introduce free senior high school across board. You introduce for the first year, then expand it, escalate it to the second year. Now it's going to be escalated to the third year. If this is not progressive, what is it? What is it? Sana, if this is not progressive, tell me what it is. Because Muhammad was saying that, look, I would take this comprehensively by making sure that the health and security of the student that will be going to these schools under any free nature would have to be secured. So I'm going to build more schools. You know, I'm going to build hospitals that the schools will go, the student to attend and then use. So policy itself can make or unmake a country. And Sana, I have always insisted that this policy that is the flagship program, a project of the senior MPP, has caused the death of some people at Kumasi Academy. I'm telling you that this free education policy and this computerization excesses is the one that caused mothers, parents to stay at the Independence Square and hold vigil as if that was a crusade. You know, so policy is important and its implementation is also important. This government has turned out so many obnoxious policies that have been withdrawn. And like they say, Alhaji, thank you very much for that. You remember the Oslo residents? Yeah. But for the vigilance of some other people, are you listening to me?
That's not a policy. The policy to establish an embassy in
Sir,
that's not a policy.
but for the vigilance of persons in the NDC, we would have been given a very raw deal. You see, again, policy is very important if you have done public administration. Policy is such that now, if you want to implement the constitution with citizenship, right? You don't come out with a policy that says that if you don't have a birth certificate or you don't have a passport, knowing that so many people in this country don't have passport or a birth certificate. Are you seeing what I'm saying? So in the end, many Ghanaians will lose their citizenship, which is a constitutional, a fundamental right. Policy. The latest one is this so-called comprehensive sexuality education. To be frank, Sana, if you review the totality of the package, it is not all in bad taste, because personal hygiene and others, but it's the smuggling into this otherwise laudable structure some principles of LGBT connotations. You understand? Now, many people have denied that this LGBT is not expressed explicitly in the constitution and the document. But must it be explicit? Must it be explicit? Senator, all the core values of LGBT from their documentation have been lifted and uprooted and planted in the Ghana Comprehensive Education, Sexuality Education. All of them. Principles that says that there should be non-discrimination, open-mindedness. Ghanaians are not open-minded to homosexuality. We are not. Are you following me? Ghanaians are not open-minded to saying that a child's right is to, when he's feeling sexy, he should have the right to express his sexuality. Majid, one day your junior brother will feel sexy and attempt it on your mother, and you see what it will happen. This is what the dangers are of this policy is. Traditionally, like Alhaji said, we have got our own ways of containing these issues. We have had it. It is not only the Krobos that had the Bragro, the depot. The Shantis had the Bragros. Fantis, we all have it. Across the country. These are the pillars that have sustained us up to this point. Who, Majid, including you, who in Ghana will say those of us sitting here are not morally upright? Who? Which Ghanaians will say we are not morally upright? A country without culture will be always in mental slavery. Majid, have you noticed that even our coat of arms have been changed? Google the images of Napo, the education minister, and you will see that his pin, the breast pin, is a coat of arms with LGBT colors around it. Google it, and you see it. The producers should Google it and show it. His pen, the pen pin, breast pin that is here, is in the colors of LGBT. Since when did Ghana change our logo and the background of our logo? Even the book cover, the green cover, the Ghana flag has been turned into a rainbow without the black star. Who gave you Napo the right to do that? Majid, who gave this government the right to do that? And apart from the impunity, the shifting of goalposts, the minister met religious leaders. Why did he meet them? Why did he meet them? To change their cultural stand on the issue or their religious stand on the issue. And listen to them. When the Minister of Education met us, he told us there was international pressure from NGOs. Who are these NGOs? Cocoa Farmers NGO. Are they cement NGOs who were putting pressure on the government to implement these obnoxious policies? And Napo told them, and he looked at the face of these religious leaders, like Archbishop Duncan Williams, like the Pentecostal and Charismatic church leaders. He looked in the face of the chief imam and told him that, oh no, we as a government will not accept it. Not so. Only to be hearing on the news that Napo was saying that Ghana has given going to have this in our curriculum. Is it fair? Is it respectful to our religious leaders? Not only that, Alhaji have told you that at paragraph 300 of the budget, this was also cited. Some people may accuse the MPs that they didn't see, but why would you accuse the MPs? Because the devil is always in the details. It is only when the issues came up that children at age 6 should be open-minded, should be non-discriminatory. Sana, if your junior brother came and told you that he was a homosexual, would you treat him the same way as before? How would you take it that your 6-year-old brother or 6-year-old son, Majid, comes home and say that I've been told that when I am feeling sexy, this is what I should do? If you remember, Sana, that just recently, Ghana has imported about 3.something million dollars worth of condoms. You remember, from India. What were these condoms being imported for? What were they imported for? Because all along, it has been now local pharmaceutical companies that have been importing condoms. Why should the government of Ghana import condoms? I saw a video in which a teacher was holding a stick carved into the shape of a male organ. and trying to teach 6-year-old, 7-year-old boys how to insert a condom. If you want to destroy a people, you destroy their history. If you want to destroy a people, you destroy their education. I am inclined to believe that the educational reforms that have taken place in this country is undermined by the interests of the Western community. Because when Kwame Nkrumah did his educational reforms, they were basis for those reforms. He wanted to use education to eradicate poverty. He wanted to use education to bring equality. When Rollins introduced the junior high school, the philosophical underpinning was that they wanted to introduce technical and vocational skills. What is the philosophical basis for the this comprehensive senior sexuality? What is the philosophical basis? That children of 8 years should know how to date, should know how to be in a relationship. Children at that age should be independent to say that I don't discriminate about sexes. Do you have children? Doesn't your child know that he's a male or a female? Doesn't he know that I have to pay my school fees at the primary level for my child or grandchild to be told that because you have a penis, a male organ, you are a male? Does he have to take me to do that, teacher to do that? You see, when they introduced the free senior high school, one of the subtle things that they did, but which they applied vigorously, was the removal of parental control. And how did they do that? They said, we are paying totally for the school fees. No PTA dues. Even printing costs, nothing should be done. And so what has happened is that we have ceded our parental control and guidance to the few people at the GES. And now they decide what our children should be taught. How can you teach Christianity to a Tikari man's daughter? How can you do that? When we were in school, we had mosque, different from the Christian churches, isn't it? And that the Muslims were always agitating that if you ask us all to go to church, it's against our religion. And nobody punished them. So what the teachers did was to build some small mosques, and then on Fridays, the Muslims had their right to worship. That is a right to worship. This thing that you are introducing, this thing that MPP government is introducing, what is to be gained? Who in Ghana will develop himself and be employed because of his sexuality? It's only sorry prostitutes who have to master the game of their sexuality. Not so, because that is what they use as their stock in trade. Why is it that this nonsense is not being practiced in India and China? India and China have the biggest population in the world, isn't it? They have the highest population. So if this policy is for population control and why don't you go and introduce it in India and China? And even in China, because of the policy, a same policy of one-child policy, now women are suing the government that, look, you caused me not to have more than one child. Now my child is dead. So what do I do? So they are fighting. In Spain, you remember recently, they have appointed minister for sex because they see that their population is dwindling because of government policy. I am telling you that the whole essence of the Planned Parenthood Association, whatever it is a mechanism of the West to control the population of Africa. I am telling you, if you want, read about Rockefeller Foundation and what they stand for. So as a country, we cannot mobilize all our gold. We cannot mobilize all our timber. We cannot mobilize all our natural resources to say that we are protecting our culture and values. We can't do that. And our president gleefully go and sit at an international interview and say that it is bound to happen. This is what is happening. This is what is happening. It is bound to happen, and it's happening. It is happening. I listened to a journalist who said that on Metro TV last Wednesday that nobody can stand against the wind. It's going to happen. We are in this country. We shall see it happen. We shall see it happen. Why? What have we done as a country? You plotted and removed the eye of Africa. You removed the man that would have stood against all this nonsense. Now you are crying like wolf. Sana, I think that this comprehensive sexuality education, in the way it's been presented, is a comprehensive nonsense, and it must be withdrawn. It's comprehensive nonsense that seeks to attack our values and culture. That seeks to, our culture is not the backward culture as they call it. Our culture that says that a young boy should respect an adult. No, so was it done to our culture? Our culture was to protect environment by not going to sea or farm on Wednesdays or certain days. Why is it that we have not been able to tell Americans, the English, that they should also go into polygamy? Why? Why haven't you been able to tell them? Why is it that they are able to tell us we should marry males and animals? And the last time I saw, a woman has married a tree. Madness. This one, until they come and kill us. See, I'm not a fan of Trump, but one of the reasons why people are still holding on to Trump is the fact that he's against this nonsense. He's against this nonsense. And all the journalists, all the politicians who have changed their typing into LGBT, whatever it is, who have bleached themselves and looking more adorable as females. All the politicians who are canvassing for this, let us tell you that we have our gods. As Ghanaians, we have our gods. Go to the northern region, you will see our shrines that have protected us up to this. Alhaji, is not true?
That's true.
Go to our chiefs, you will see how they have protected us by pouring just libation. We shall pour libation. We shall do everything African to stop this nonsense. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Professor Sampia. Before I go to Mr. Pride, just a couple of messages you've been sending to us. This one says, good morning. How many countries globally have signed up to this CSE abomination? Is Mujida aware Canada has thrown it away after embracing it? Is he not aware that there is a global outrage and serious campaign against it? Is he aware that 150,000 people in UK have signed petition to the British Parliament to stop CSE implementation? If you tell us, aside the 6 program acceleration countries in Africa, which African countries have signed up to CSE? I thought, interesting. he said he thought we were religious. I think Mujib was clear as to where he stood on the issue. Musa Abatwa and Kumasi, Senna, why is any issue that generates controversy, MPP and some journalists, like what he mentioned, trying to juxtapose it with past events in order to get previous government into the brouhaha? Okay, Dr. Samuel Ofori, Dr. You mentioned somebody in the National Coalition for Proper Humans who has rich experience on such matters, has given extensive education on CSE. He said, Napu, stop being stubborn and listen to the voices of reason. Drop that satanic CSE now or face our wrath. Next NDC government will scrap the killer CSE and replace it with CMP, which comprehensive moral education. Thank you very much, Musa Abatwa, for sending that message. Baba Musa says, why are some hypocrites in Ghana struggling to associate the devilish and satanic comprehensive sexuality education with the former NDC government? Akufo-Addo in 2017 said in an interview with the international media that homosexuality was bound to happen under his government. His nephew Gabi Ochudaku supported that through a Facebook post. The MPP defended it, and today they have fully rolled out the syllabus, and the NACA Teachers Curriculum Pack document also contains it. It featured in the 2019 budget document in the appendix section. Look, if Ghanaians make another mistake and let this government retain power in 2020, then Ghana is finished. The cathedral that Akufo-Addo is desperately building, gay marriages will take place there after it is built. Thank you, Baba Musa, for that message. Just a couple more of those messages. And, well, Okay, so positive change in Medina. Zongo Jansen, there's Mr. President, with all due respect, Ghanaians elected you on the 7th of December 2016 to implement laws that will impact our lives positively. But it seems your actions since you assumed office have contributed negatively to the lives of the very citizens that gave you power. Mr. President, you are killing your citizens with your killer taxes, and on top of it, you still want to impose on us another hardship called comprehensive sexuality education. Mr. President, your citizens are not happy and are not ready for CSC. Thank you. Thank you too for that message. Bernard Kujo says, Sam, I'm sorry that you brought Trump into this. This man has no values. I think he's addressing Ambassador Sam PLA.
It's against LGBT. That one alone, I give it to him.
Mr. Pratt.
Well, look, I think that our task is to clear the cobwebs out of the way. Because since this revelation, came up and the discussions began, there have been deliberate attempts to cloud our vision, to put cobwebs in the way and so on. So it has made the discussion rather difficult and cumbersome. I intend to try and remove some of these cobwebs so that we can see clearly. A lot of people are deliberately confusing sex education with sexuality education. They are not one and the same. Sex education is about making all of us, especially children, aware of how to conduct themselves in such a manner as to avoid diseases. When they get diseases, how to handle them, to be conscious of their biological cycles and its implications for their growth and development and so on. That is sex education. When you come to sexuality education, it is basically about orientation, sex orientation. You understand? It is not about teaching young girls to know that at one stage or the other, they are likely to get menstrual cycles. That these menstrual cycles have implications for their development and their health. You understand? That happens. There's nothing wrong with that. Indeed, it is good to have that. When you come to sexuality education, and if you look at the guidelines and all the material that is available, it's about teaching the different sexual orientations. Homogeneous sex, heterosexual sex. Let's be blunt a little about it. Sex between same-sex people. People who do it all. Men who can sleep with men and sleep with women at the same time and so on. Women who sleep with themselves and can sleep with others. It's about masturbation and so on. It's even about sex change. Some people are born female. And as they grow up, they decide that, look, they really want to be men. And the other way around and so on. So it's about all of this. You understand? Now, that's a problem. And I said that is a problem not because I endorse homosexuality or I'm against homosexuality. I said that is a problem from the point of view of science. I've tried to read a little about how people handle their sexuality. And indeed, only last week, there was a documentary on the BBC about a male who decided to become a female. And the psychological impact on him nearly destroyed him. This is an adult, well-educated adult, who had married and had children. And in dealing with his sexuality, he began developing psychological problems. Now, if even adults are able to deal with their sexuality and matters arising out of their sexuality and can have psychological breakdowns, then what will happen to 6-year-olds? I hope you understand what I'm saying. So it is not about whether you like homosexuality or you don't like homosexuality. It's about how to introduce children to this very, complex and dangerous phenomena. At what age? At what age are you going to teach children about all of this, including masturbation and so on? At what age? And what is going to be the psychological impact on the children? This is a fundamental question. But you see, in this discussion, a lot of people have reduced it to whether you like homosexuality or you don't like homosexuality. Now, it is important to note that Canada, which actually allows homosexual marriages, is fighting against the comprehensive sexuality education. You get the point I'm making? Canada, it allows homosexual marriage, but it says this is far dangerous than homosexual marriage. It says that when it comes to the comprehensive sexuality education, it is so dangerous that even as it accepts homosexuality, it is unable to accept this. I hope you understand the point that I'm making. So you see, if you reduce the whole thing to those who like homosexuality and those who don't like homosexuality, you make the program even look good. You make it look good because there are people who endorse homosexuality, but they say this one there, we cannot endorse it. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So don't let us make this thing look good by reducing it to people who like homosexuality and people who don't like homosexuality. Because all over the world, it is being fought because it is dangerous and so on. All over, including homosexuals. Even homosexuals are fighting it. This is so dangerous that the whole world is united against it. So that's the first cobweb to clear. Now, we are being told that, look, everything that is being said about this comprehensive sexuality education is mere propaganda. And that it does not exist. It is the figment of the imagination of people who want to make this administration look bad. We've all been told that. Now, what is the reality? One, you have groups like Occupy Ghana. I read Occupy Ghana's statement yesterday. Is anybody suggesting that Occupy Ghana has an agenda to make this government look bad? Can anybody suggest that Occupy Ghana indeed is working for the National Democratic Congress and all the other groups which have come up? There's this lawyer for Amwani, who was the first person I heard to be criticizing this comprehensive sexuality education. Has he all of a sudden become an NDC member and so on? I just doubt. What about the Pentecostal Council? Is that also an NDC institution and so on? I just wonder. Then some time ago, the U.S. Embassy in Accra issued a statement in which they said that 20 ministers for education from Africa were meeting in Accra to discuss this very, very program. In that U.S. Embassy statement, they indicated that there were 6 African countries which have already agreed to implement the program, and Ghana was one of the 6 countries. Didn't our officials see the statement issued by the U.S. Embassy? They didn't contest it. They agreed. And indeed, the conference took place in Accra. And the conference was addressed by our Honorable Minister for Education, who endorsed the program. So how did they turn around now and say that, look, this is the figment of people's imagination and so on? I just wonder. Listen, I just completely wonder. So that's another cobweb in the way. There's a lot more to be said about it, but I think it's sufficient to clear, that cobweb. The next one, we are told that this program is not in the manual. The Minister for Education was at pains to tell us that it's not in the manual. There's nothing like that. You can't find it anywhere. And then, hail presto, yesterday, I got a copy of the Daily Guide, not the Informer, not the Daily Democrat, not the Daily Post. I got a copy of the Daily Guide yesterday. Page 3 of the Daily Guide yesterday claimed that this program was actually started by the National Democratic Congress and that those explicit details were inserted by the National Democratic Congress. Now, if nothing has been inserted in the program, if nothing has been inserted in the manual and so on, how come that now we say that NDC inserted it? So it is there after all. Because it is either there or it's not there. And if it's not there, it cannot be inserted by anybody. If somebody has inserted it into anything, then it is there. Common logic. It's so simple. This is not complicated at all. The logic is not complicated at all. This is not like Bertrand Russell describing the omnipotence of God, discussing the logical sequence of the omnipotence of God. This is so ABC, so simple, so common, and I wonder why people who rise to become ministers and so on cannot apply such commonsensical, I mean, it's amazing. Now they say that NDC put it there, so it is there. So why have they been worrying us? That is not there at all. People are imagining things and so. Are we still imagining things when they claim that the NDC put it there? In any case, let us accept that the NDC put it there. So the NDC now has become God. Anything they put there, we must follow. Now the NDC is beyond question. Anything that the NDC does, everybody must accept. This government must accept and implement. What rubbish. Master, what rubbish. NDC put it there, so what? Even if it is true, so what? So let's put that one to aside. You see, a UN official in Accra actually granted an interview to City FM. And in that interview, he was clear. He said, look, the government of Ghana came and told us that they wanted to implement this program and that they want money for it. So far, I haven't heard any government official challenge the UN agency. Nobody has challenged the claim by the UN agency that the government of Ghana came to them and said, pay us some money so that we can implement this program. Have you heard that it has been challenged? It hasn't been challenged. In fact, 2-3 days ago, I was driving. And if I listen to radio only in my car, when I get out of my car, I don't listen to radio. And I tuned to one of the radio stations. And there was a lady who is in charge of some population program.
National Population Council.
And she said she doesn't understand what all this noise is about. And that this is like wearing a seat belt. Listen to me carefully. And that if you wear a seat belt, it does not mean that you're expecting to get an accident. And I said, my goodness. In fact, Jesus Christ, wherever he is, he has to come back quickly. Because if this is the logic, then we are in serious trouble. And if Jesus Christ is delaying, he has to stop the delay and come back very, very quickly, because if he doesn't come back early, by the time he will come, things would have been destroyed to the extent that even him, he will struggle to change things. Logic. A well-educated woman in charge of such a serious program and so on, and this is her understanding. Do you know the question I pose? Who wears a seatbelt when he's going to urinate? Do you wear seatbelts when you are going to sleep? You wear seatbelts because you're going to do things that can result in accidents. All right? So this seatbelt analogy, so stupid, it should not be repeated anywhere. I mean, incredible seatbelt analogy. Put it aside. It doesn't make sense. If you apply common sense to it, it collapses, completely collapses and so on. You understand? Now, for me, this comprehensive sexuality education is an affront to society. The very fabric of society will be destroyed if we adopt it and implement it. And I would explain. This comprehensive sexuality education says that sex is a human right. That sex is a human right. And that it should be enjoyed at all ages. And we are talking about the teenage pregnancy. We're talking about teenage pregnancy. And you are going to teach a subject which emphasizes the fact that sex is a human right which should be enjoyed at all ages. And that children should not listen to their parents when it comes to the exercise of their sexuality. What would this do to the relationship between parents and their children? Do you get the dimensions of this program? Take it out of I like homosexuality, I don't like homosexuality, and examine it in detail. And you see how serious it is. That sex is a human right. And that everybody at whatever age needs to enjoy that human right. And that the guidance of parents must be frowned upon or rejected. And then it talks about teaching children to be tolerant of the different sexual orientations. So we are going to teach children to be tolerant of homosexuality, to be tolerant of lesbianism, to be tolerant of all kinds of things. And you see, some of our people, I think, have stopped reading. You know, some of our people have stopped reading. They are not listening. They are not watching. In fact, they become dead roots. And that is part of the problem. Do you know why I say this? Today, as we speak here, some European countries have actually passed laws making sex with animals, human beings having sex with animals, legal. That is sexual orientation. That is sexual orientation. So if you're going to train your children, your young people, to be tolerant of other people's sexual orientation, that would include training your children to be tolerant of human beings having sex with animals. If I lie, tell me I lie. You are going to teach your children to be tolerant of human beings having sex with animals. Indeed, within the last few weeks, I've also read that there are even some countries which now have passed a law allowing women to marry dogs. That's also sexual orientation. Women now have a right to marry their dogs. Sexual orientation. You know, Sana, I mean, I cannot for one moment understand how anybody who has his head screwed on his neck with brain matter in the head will come to agree that we should implement such a program in our schools. I mean, look, if you have your head properly screwed on your neck, how can you on earth agree that we should implement such a program in our schools? But it has happened. You see, there's a certain posture that frightens me. In this country, we appoint ministers and their deputies. We appoint heads of public institutions and so on. And all of a sudden, they begin to think that they are the only people who are capable of thinking. They begin to see the rest of us as people who are carrying heads, in which they are only stones and no brain matter. And I wonder, what makes them develop that sense of arrogance? What makes ministers think that they are special and that they can think better than all the rest of us and so on? Is that true? People have become ministers not because they are exceptionally brainly or intelligent. They become ministers, one, simply because their political parties have won elections. One. Even that is better. Even that is better. Because there are other considerations. If you read the 1992 Constitution, it comes up with all kinds of permutations. Gender balance, regional balance, ethnic balance, and so on. So by the time you finish balancing and balancing and balancing all of these things, if you don't take time, you have a wacky as a minister. Complete wacky as a minister. Because of all the balancing acts. And they get there and they think that they are superior. They think that by getting there, they are wiser than all of us. They can talk down to us. They can assume that our heads are filled with stones. And that they are the only people who have brain matter in their heads and so on. Incredible. Minister, so what? You are a minister, so what? My brother, if tomorrow morning the president doesn't wake up well, he has finished with you. Your whole ministerial thing is ended. And the president is not even bound to give reasons why he's kicking you, sacking you. You become jobless tomorrow morning. Not for anything, but because the president didn't sleep well, had a bad dream about you. You are gone. The Constitution doesn't even compel the president to give a reason why he sacked you. And yet you are so arrogant. Unbelievable. Master, even our presidents, I'm not talking about one president, I'm talking about all our presidents. Can they be arrogant? Is there any grounds on which they can be arrogant? Are they special people? They are not special people. This is a country of 30 million people. And only one person can be president at a time. You understand? So for all kinds of reasons, sometimes including the size of their pockets and the size of people's pockets, is not coterminous with the size of their brain. You understand? So sometimes people become president because of the size of their pockets. Sometimes people become president because, okay, let me leave it here. I don't want to go on that tangent. But we know how they become president. So he became president today, and because of that, all the 29 point something million Ghanaians are idiots. You are the only sensible person, and so on. Let's just stop doing that. It annoys us. It annoys the population. And then there's another tendency that I think we should watch. When an issue like this comes up, find all MPP people zombies, one direction. We have to defend our party. You find all NBC people sometimes one direction. We have to defend our party and so on. Defend your party. Your party exists in society, in a community. If that society community gets destroyed, your party cannot survive. Your prime responsibility is to defend the society in which your party can survive or collapse. So this madness of defending parties at every cost and any cost doesn't even help the political parties. The truth is the truth. It's only one. And let's stick to it. Something has happened in this matter which I find commendable. Like the PDS matter. I'm hearing very, very, very senior members of the New Patriotic Party say that we should not allow this to pass. And I can give names. Again, I've heard Honorable, is it KT or TK? KT Hammond. Loud and clear that this should not be allowed to pass. And that if anybody dares bring this to Parliament, there will be fire and brimstone. He's a member of the New Patriotic Party. You understand? So this thing is so outrageous that the normal party lines are being broken again. And I think it's a good thing. You understand? Now what do? We are here. Yesterday, I had the privilege of reading a statement which the minority leader read to the press. And I must say that I have reservations about aspects of the statement. The statement says that we should not implement the comprehensive sexuality education in the manner in which it's being implemented. There is no manner in which this program can be implemented which will be acceptable. This program is an abomination from head to toe, and it cannot be implemented in any manner which will be acceptable. The resistance against this program is not Ghanaian. It's worldwide. Everywhere in the world it's being fought. It's being fought in South Africa, it's being fought in Canada, it's being fought in the United States of America, it's being fought all over the world. There's nothing good about the comprehensive sexuality education. And it should be rejected in its entirety. You understand? I think, however, that sex education, not just in the schools but in the community, is a good thing, which we must continue. It has been there for years. We need to continue. We need to have the people with the technical expertise, health practitioners and so on, if we want to improve existing sex education, to look at the syllabus now and see what we can do about the syllabus to make it more meaningful and beneficial to the Ghanaian community. And that we must do, and we must do with emphasis. You know, the other thing that is worrying The day the minister held his press conference and said that, oh, there's a figment of people's imagination and so on, that same night, somebody went and dug and saw the minister's speech in February this year and put it on the net. I put the two side by side. Speech in February and speech in September. And I couldn't believe that I was seeing the same person. I couldn't believe that I was seeing the same person. I mean, this level of duplicity cannot be accepted in any decent society. Indeed, to be honest with you, if this level of duplicity had been displayed, even in some banana republics, the minister himself would have tendered in his resignation. This level of duplicity, saying one thing in February and denying yourself in September, complete denial, it's really shocking. I suspect something happened, and it's only a suspicion. You know, many of these high-profile public personalities, I don't think they take their time to read things that are put before them and to critically analyze the things that come before them. When they read it and the English sounds flowery enough, they're happy. They will go with it. That is one of the major problems of our public administration. I used to work in the ministries. And I used to be a speechwriter. And on many occasions, I wrote speeches for ministers and so on. And there's a fact. I mean, Honorable Inusa Fuseni has been a minister before. I wrote speeches for ministers. And I wrote them as drafts. Gave them to ministers, went to the function with them, and found them reading my draft from head to toe. Not one word change. And it used to surprise me, even as a speechwriter. You understand? Because I can't be 100% right. Normally in the ministries, you know what happens. They have the speeches file. Speeches file is there. In the public service, they have the speeches file. So if the minister minutes has been invited to a function, he minutes. In the ministries, it will go to chief director. Chief director will minute sometimes to public relations officers and so on. So all that they do is that they take the speeches file and look for similar occasions which have occurred before and the speeches which were given. And then they copy that speech and send to minister as a guide. And so minister will go and read that speech. The same speech which was read 5 years ago by his predecessor, you go and read it and create a mess for everybody. You understand? So we should pay attention to speech writing in the government agencies and so on. We should pay attention. Look at how the president was embarrassed on the day of his inauguration. It's a problem of speech writing. You see, people think that speech writing, you just go there and speak English and then you get some applause. Of course, if you're a minister, you are speaking in public, they will applaud you. It's part of the trick, you understand? They will applaud you and so on. And they think it's fine. So they'll go and piece together speeches. Even if they piece them together, you're lucky. Sometimes raw, ditto. The same speech which was given 6 years ago, they come and give it to you to read. They just change dates and names and give it to you.
They don't even change the date properly.
Yeah. You know, so a lot of the problems is coming also from speech writing. When ministers and so on are not diligent enough, they can cause a lot of problems. When the finance minister went to Parliament to read the 2019 budget, I'm sure he read this thing about comprehensive sexuality education without even knowing its implication. He didn't put it there, I'm sure, I'm 100% sure, that the Minister of Finance did not put that in the budget, but it was there and he read it. And he read it as if it's his own. Now, finally, my brother, you've heard the religious leaders, all of them. Christians, Muslims, African traditional religion people, Baha'i people, Buddhists, and so on. You've heard all of them. And all of them, not me. Me, I don't belong to that category. But those who belong to that category are saying that this is a damnable abomination in the eyes of God. They are saying it, or not me. Saying this is a damnable abomination in the eyes of God. So how do you marry this which has been described as a damnable abomination in the eyes of God with the building of a national cathedral? How do you connect the two? Maybe it's time to stop building the national cathedral. It is clear. If you are engaged in a damnable abomination in the eyes of God, you are building the cathedral for what? My opposition to the cathedral is not on religious basis. My opposition to the building of the cathedral is based on common sense. You understand? But some think that it has a religious foundation. Indeed, the president says that he's fulfilling a promise he made to God, to his God. Mr. President, you go and make your private promise to your private God. And then you decide that the money you use in fulfilling your private promise to your private God is money which belongs to all the people of Ghana. And you think you are doing something very well. Carry on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr. Ending our very first discussion on the matter of comprehensive sexuality education. Before I take a couple of your messages, let me just remind you of the panel I have today. You heard Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr., who is a regular panel on the program. You heard Alhaji, Alhaji, okay, let me come here. Alhaji Inusa Fuseni, who is also with us on the show. He is a member of parliament for Tamale Central. Ambassador Sam Piale is the president of the NDC's professional forum, and Mujib Rahman is a member of the communications team of the New Patriotic Party. A couple of your messages before we move to our next topics. This one says, from teacher Koko in Keta. Good morning, Sana. We must not be deceived by the supposed meeting to be called by the president. Inclusion of the CSE in our basic curriculum will be a remote means of including homosexuality behavior in children. Please let us kick against it now on risk our children's life and our future. Thank you very much for that message. Alhaji Asuma Zaid Isa Adenta Favara says, Sana, why are we Ghanaians crying? Is it that we don't know what the MPP government is or can be? They will do everything comprehensively to corrupt our systems, and you think they cannot impose upon us this disgraceful act? And what is the MPP man saying? He should be told, late Professor Mills told to the face of David Cameron, so he should give us a break. Thank you very much, Alhaji, for that message. Well, somebody is sending me a video. Unfortunately, I can't. Thank you, but thank you very much. This one is from Jojo in Taifa. It says, hi, comrades. Akufo-Addo has shot himself in the head, and as a result, his cup is full. Upon all the thievery and stealing, Akufo-Addo is still not satisfied and has gone ahead to take money from the gay community. And this is enough ground to vote against the 79-year-old man. Other than that, he will give the homosexuality legal backing by convincing the majority in parliament with the gay money because we know them. There's no way Akufo-Addo can justify himself with the CSE. It's too late. Thank you very much for that message.
Pan-African Television has, I think, a 36-minute documentary on this comprehensive sexuality education. And, I suspect that it can be played immediately after the show.
Okay.
It's a 36-minute documentary.
Okay.
And it tells the whole story.
Okay.
You know, so if the producer director is listening, you can start putting it together so we can show it immediately after the show, and people will have a sense of the extent to which the whole world is resisting this madness.
Okay.
You know.
So that is it. So immediately it is confirmed, then we'll let you know when we are closing so that you can stick and stay and watch. You see, Tamale says, Senna, let Mujib know that it takes a reasonable leader like Atamils to reject an offer of gayism and lesbianism into Ghana. What is Mujib talking about? This incompetent Napo should bow his head in shame. Samo.
Mujib is also being unfairly.
Yes.
I think it's made it very clear from the beginning
That it is not back.
that he's opposed to this comprehensive sexuality education. You know. But unfortunately, everybody is bashing him.
No, by the way, he said the listening government and all those things.
Mohammed Idi.
No, listen. No, anyway.
Mohammed
we just
Idi
go.
is in Tamale, says, Uncle Kwesi, you are destined to save Ghana. If you don't wake up, you shall answer to God because it's mandatory, not a choice. Look, it's a divine comment. Don't relax. That is somebody prophesying into your life. This one says, people are referred to as honorable based on doing honorable things. His Excellency due to doing excellent things. Our president should no longer be referred to as such. He is rather doing satanic things. BB in Accra says, good morning, Senator and the honorable men in your studio. We say no to this CSE thing. Why didn't the UN try to introduce it in Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, and the Arab countries? That's an interesting suggestion. Walanyo in Akwetia says, they go upstream to muddy the waters and come downstream to ask why the water is muddy. NDC and its apparatchiks know very well that CSC was introduced privately in 2015 under John Mahama's SOL administration. And the textbook for teachers was approved by GES in 2015.
So how was it introduced in 2015?
I don't know. Yeah, well, only Olanyo can think that way.
Well, Alman from Stadi says the government should drop that CSE. It's useless. I blame we Ghanaians for dropping our beautiful, and now here we are. The church failed, and they failed to teach our children good morals. Thank you very much for that message. Okay, so good morning, Senator. This is Dean Kote from Ofanko. China and other developed countries are teaching their children at a very tender age electronics and other technological materials. We decide to teach our children about sexuality. Amagana. Good morning, Senator. Can MPP tell us what their campaign message for 2020 is? They have none. So they should stop calling on NDC for same. In fact, MPP, well, that's from Nana in Elmina. Thank you very much for that message, Nana. Benjamin Adevu in Nkwanta and Oti region says, Ekufuado and his cunning ways of deploying homosexuality and lesbianism into our country won't yield it. We will all carry weapons and drag them away from power. If we want to them, well, continues. Our country bleeds under this man every day. What crime has Ghanaians committed to be witnessing these atrocities under this? Okay, thank you for that message. Thank you very much for the message. Cornerstone in Tamale says, please, NDC should let us know how they would make NAPCO sustainable, because it is really helpful to the youth by putting food on our tables. They should not make mistake by condemning it, but rather show us how better they can make it than it is now. But on the issue, he says, okay, I said, I'm so disappointed in Akufo-Addo for this CSE thing. Hashtag drop that CSE thing. Hashtag we don't need it. Ghanaians arise and say no to the oppressors rule. Thank you very much, Cornerstone, for that message. I'm reading as much as I can. Selassie from Pokwasi says there's chaos in public schools in Ga North and Ga West municipality because the head teachers have been reassigned to the classroom. Thank you for that heads up. Let's move on to our very next topic that has to do with the increases in tariffs, and of course the communication service tax kicked in this week. Both perhaps it came to our attention, but we are so focused on comprehensive sexuality education, everybody just decided to let it go. but it's very important that we talk about it and how it will affect the average Ghanaian. This time I want to start with the Honorable Inus Afuseni.
Well, this week has been full of many interesting things. The first one by Nana Dodonko Akufo-Addo and his Minister of Education, when they decided to take us for a ride into this comprehensive sexuality education. Apparently for the beginning of the year. So that's why it came to your head. And then while we were at it, still grappling with the difficulties of understanding why the government had taken that decision, Bawumia goes to
Vice President
Bawumia goes to commission the job creation center.
Yeah.
And for him, yes, they had increased utility prices. But the increment on utility prices was better than the increment under the NDC. Yeah. So that drew our attention to exactly what was happening. Because it was actually Bawumia who drew our attention to the, because we knew that the supplementary budget and all these things had spoken about it, but we didn't know that they had increased. So he introduced us to the increment. He said that they had increased energy prices by about 6%. That's 5.94%. And they had also increased the communication service tax. And to have a wider range. Even now, they're going to tax data. Okay, so people who used to buy credit for 5 cities, now when you buy the credit for 5 cities, you get a response. You get a receipt. When you load it, you get a receipt. You don't get a receipt that you have loaded 5 cities. You get a receipt that you have loaded less than the tax, less than 5 cities. So that's the real value, because you have the difference between the units that you bought and the amount you paid is the tax that you have paid. And this tax is, so even there's double taxation. So if you take 500 Ghana cedis and buy units, and then they charge you tax, CST, on the 500 Ghana cedis. Now, while that 500 cedis is in your phone, if you decide to apply 200 of the 500 Ghana cedis to buy data, they charge you on the data as well. They charge you on the 200 that you are using to buy the data. Do you get me?
And the airtime.
No, yes, if you buy 500, they charge you CST for 500.
Yeah.
So you have got the 500 credit on your phone.
Yeah.
If you decide to use 200 of the 500
To bundle.
yeah, they charge you on the bundle as well.
These are separate functions. But the bundle function is different. It's airtime, Alhaji.
So, I said it elsewhere. The AFO MPP, their legacy will be number 1, corruption. Number 2, underperformance. Number 3, leading the nepotistic government in the history of this country. And number 4, leaving us with confusion. Confusion. That NPP will leave this government with people of Ghana confused about what they came to do. That's the legacy. Now, so but we went to, so CSC, all of us know that CSC is there. Now you will pay double. So it's better to just go. I mean, now if you don't want to pay double, it's better to just go and buy your bundle and then buy your credit. Okay? Then you will pay in tax on your bundle and tax on your credit. But if you buy credit and want to apply part of the money to buy a bundle, you pay double. You pay double. So that's my advice too. But they said that they were going to move this country from production, from taxation to production. Coming events are casting their shadows. NDC needs money more than the World Bank. I'm sure as they continue to be in the office in the last few months before they leave, they will attempt to tax the air that we breathe. Because they need money. But Baumia says that between the year 2013 to the year 2016, by his analysis, he's not provided the basis, but he says his analysis. So I'm going to take him on his analysis. By his analysis, NDC increased tax by a cumulative 166%.
Electricity tariffs.
Electricity tariffs.
Yeah.
Sorry, electricity tariffs by a cumulative 166%. And that was the reason why, look at this argument, that was the reason why they said that when NDC was in power, tariffs, electricity tariffs was higher than rent, according to Baumia. And so then when they came into office, they reduced it by 20%. They reduced the tariffs by a cumulative of about 20% or 22%. They gave industrial users a reduction of 30% and domestic users a reduction of 17%. Combined and divided by 2, you get a cumulative of about, an average of about 22 or 23%. That's what Bob said. They reduced tax, they reduced tariffs by 23%. Bob's argument. So now, if you want to understand it, I did economics up to O levels, but he's an economics professor. But on this case, I think they understand the economics better than him. If you want to understand his argument, he says that when you say we have increased tax, NDC increased tax by a cumulative of 166%. What he's simply saying is that you can only get the 166% by holding a certain constant. You get me? That constant is the 2012 tariffs. So he's calculating his 166, holding the 2012 tariffs constant. By extension of his argument, it means that all the tariffs that we increased, or that was increased under NDC from 2013 and to 2016, were needless. Do you get it? That's the 166. He comes into office and says, oh, yes, even though you increase it 166%, we are going to reduce it by a cumulative of 23%. He goes further. He said, okay, in 2018, we decided to increase it by 11%. So they are now beginning to increase power, the cost of electricity. And in 2019, we have increased it by, he says 5%, but it's about 6%.
Yeah,
5.5.
5.5.
It's 5.94.
5.94. Okay.
That's about 6%. Now, so that's about 17%. Or that's about 17%. Now, so when he says that, when you take the 17%
From the 22.
you get that, you still get 5%. And the 5%,
Because it's not up to the 23% reduction in 2017.
and the 5% can still buy you Chalewuti. That's the way for you. An economist turned propagandist. By his argument, he's admitted that power needed to increase. Power needed to increase under NDC because the superstructure is what the 11% is being increased upon. It's just like someone builds a house for you. In building the house, you have to inherit the house. Then after he's reached the window level, he puts the windows at the shoulder level. Then when you are in the room, people can only see your head from the shoulder going. That's where your windows, that's how he measures his windows. Then you inherit and say, oh, when he was building the house, you said, no, you're not building the house well. Your house is too expensive. Your house is not on firm foundation. So when I come, I'll do the house well. You come, you don't destroy the whole house. You only destroy up to the windows level. And say that, well, your windows are too low. I don't want to be in the room and people will see me at all. But the foundation is still the foundation. The foundation of the increases in utility prices is still the foundation of the NDC. Why? And the NDC did not do it arbitrarily. Again, that's why I think the Bomia has become a propagandist. Go to the PURC Act. Bomia is not telling us that for them, this government, in a way, you see, the arrogance of power can blind a leader to the realities of a country. What we are seeing clearly in the CSE and even tariffs is just arrogance of power, which is leading them to behave in an absurd manner. In this country, we all decided that playing energy politics was enough. Enough was enough. PURC was not in existence before until we came to the conclusion that we needed to deregulate energy and establish a regulatory body different from government to determine the prices of energy. Not so. So where does the government come in?
To stop the most.
So in determining the energy prices, PURC takes consumer interest into consideration. What do consumers want? So when we had Dumso, what did consumers want? Lights. How do they want it? Constant and fairly cheap. So they factor in the interest of consumers. They take the investor and the utility provider's interest into consideration. He's invested so that he can have margins, returns on his investment, not so? So how can we guarantee a fair return on his investment? They take the cost of production. Is it running on gas? Or is it running on light crude oil? Or refined fuels? What is the energy mix in this country? How are we, to what extent are we generating energy from hydro as part of the production base of the country so that we can fix the price? They take the financial viability. If they fix utility prices at this rate, will the companies be financially viable? The uniformity of prices, that no matter what energy you are producing from gas, you are producing from light crude, you are producing from water, you are producing from refined fuel. When you mix, you must sell power at the same price. Just like petroleum products. Whether you are in Kumasi, even if you are just in Tema by the Tor, you buy petrol the same price that somebody in Paka is buying that petrol. Uniformity of prices. Doesn't matter how you. So how do they put all together and strike out an average such that the utility companies and distribution companies can continue to run and be financially viable? The economic development of the country, taking the cost of the people, the wealth of the country and the prosperity or otherwise or poverty of the people into consideration. How do we fix energy prices? The different rates for different classes. Bulk purchases. If someone is an industrialist, he's producing, he's working, needing power for the mines, or you are going to sell power to the Volco Aluminium Company, as against somebody who needs it to watch Manchester on TV every evening, as against somebody who needs it in a studio like this to provide a service to the people. How do you sell power to them? Do we classify this person to, like in this studio, as a domestic consumer, or is he an industrial consumer? how do we sell power in such a way that we can encourage the total development of this country? Okay. These are the factors that go into determining the price of power. And so, but Mr. Baumia, with the greatest respect to you, NDC did not fix power prices arbitrarily. In determining the cost of buying the power from the utility companies, you also have to look at the fuel source. If it is light crude, do we have light crude? Yes, we have at Jubilee. But do we sell to companies? No, we export. We're exporters. Now, so they bring in their light crude to power the companies, and they buy the crude in what? United States dollars. So the strength of your currency is an important factor in determining how much you pay for power.
Alhaji, please wrap up for me.
Oh, I thought that as a former deputy minister of energy, I wanted him to understand.
I know,
okay.
I know.
So let me say that it is MPP's impunity that has told us, that has gotten Ghanaians to come back to energy politics. Because when MPP reduced the cost of energy in fulfillment of their unreasonable political promise, the first person who criticized them was their own Dr. Reku Brobe, who told them that what they had done was totally wrong and that it constituted an unwarranted interference into the work of the Public Utilities Commission. So, Mr. Bamia, if you thought that we had increased power so abnormally to make it more expensive than rent, all you needed to do was to destroy the superstructure and start your increment from 2012. And then would have said that, would have clapped for you. But you don't reprobate. You don't build on what we have left you and then say that, oh, we are even better. You are paying energy at 160-something% now. By Bob's logic. Okay. Because it says it just says a reduction of 5%. So energy prices today is 161% of 2012 levels. That's what Bobby is telling us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'll plead with the rest of the panelists to be as brief as possible. Mujib.
So you still want me to be briefed? Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. I think before the new topic, I want to just say something small on this. When I was submitting on the first topic, I think I did not say I was mindful of the fact that when you rectify, you take steps to incorporate. That is why I said through parliament to make it more. Okay. And on international law, the fact that countries like America are violating doesn't mean that is right. Maybe we all know that is different. It doesn't mean what they are doing in Venezuela, they are justified in doing it, except that they are strong and they feel they can do whatever they want to do. Sana, it is also true, sometimes let's give credit where credit is due. When we are talking of education in this country, the new patriotic party tradition has done well in the Ghana education sector. Daddy, I'm coming. For instance, what do we have in the constitution? We have the FQ, the Free Universal Compulsory Basic Education. This has been with us for a very long time. Until President Kufuor came, he started. And Kufuor came and then opened up. To the extent that enrollment was going up, he introduced further the school feeding program. And now we have forgotten the term, what they have been paying to manage the schools, the primary level, capitation grant. This is a word new, all good policies that were introduced under President Kufuor. I hope you are getting the argument. But yes, it is true, even today, with the implementation of the free senior high school, others still have their children in private school because they felt that they have the means, they have the resources, they can pay. And that is the direction they want to go. But when we are looking at majority of Ghanaians, Accra is not only the Ghana.
Go to the hinterland, go to the villages, the hamlets, and see people who stop going to school because of fee paying at that level. And this informed the decision of the president. As he was campaigning, going around, if I get the opportunity, he gets the opportunity, he will implement it. Majority of the people of this country will have opportunity to access education up to certain point. That is very significant. But it's a matter of choice. If the finance minister felt that he in a particular category class can pay, nobody prevents him. But how many of finance minister caliber do we have in the country? I hope you are getting the argument. So let's get that one detention clip. For policy implementation, it is when you implement that some of the challenges that come out, then you take steps to correct them. When it was implemented, there was issue of accommodation. And now government came out earlier this year, the number of educational facilities. Example, classrooms, dormitory blocks, facilities that government has constructed to contain the numbers that are coming. That is very significant. So let's applaud government for that. So now the issue of politics of increases in utility prices. I'm very happy Honorable has mentioned it. We were young growing up and we saw how politicians play politics with increases in utility, energy, etc., etc. If I haven't seen anybody, but I've seen President Kufuor, where he was campaigning in 2000 using gallon. And I have seen many senior citizens in this country in 2008 doing mathematical calculations of fuel increment in this country through the CJA, what they were calling Committee for Joint Action in 2000, and that brought President Mills to power. And then, so I think that we were thinking that putting measures in place and going forward, and none of them won, because anybody that played the politics and gets the opportunity to come to power also keep on increasing. Well, I'm yet to be convinced, Alhaji, that since the inception of the Fourth Republic, NDC or MPP has come throughout the 4 years, no increment in fuel prices, no increment in water, no increment in electricity. But we are yet to see. So I think it's a fact that we have to come to terms with the realities. I hope you are getting the argument. But the point is, we are still there. Now, the Public Utility Regulatory Commission is there, supposed to oversee. But when they does, it points out to government. But Omia didn't just come, the vice president didn't just come out to say this in vacuum. When it happens, the opposition took on that, government has increases water and electricity, coupled with increases of transport fares, against communication tax. All this is going to affect the living conditions of the people. Indeed, it's true. But if we haven't gone to the media, public with the social media, the vice president would have responded in terms of percentage differentials and increases. I hope you are getting the argument. Of course, when you play the politics, the politicians will also come out to rebut. But let's come to accept that as a people, this is the way. And when the prices, the percentages are announced, PURC came out with their reasons. I think the one is the exchange rate, second inflation, and Ghanaians are taking them on, asking for quality services. And they are also coming out telling people, we are not being able to cover cost of operation. So now we are just at the middle. Where do we go? To pay realistic prices, to be able to get better services. That is, I think that is the justification of the Ghana water and then ECG, electricity, etc., etc. So my worry is that they should, now that the increments has come, we are also expecting a very delivery of quality services to the people of this country. But they should also be proactive in their management of their equipment. So you go around, you see the pipe laying at our best. 1 week, 4 days, they will respond in terms trying to manage it. And all this are waste. But eventually they will come back to we the citizens to pay the wastage in the system. No, that is also not fair. But I think it's still with us. But government also was also critical after Alhaji said trying to fulfill their unrealistic manifesto or campaign promise. Alhaji, we are still benefiting of the 23% reduction of all this. So Alhaji, buying of electricity and all those, it's still with us now. So I hope you are getting the argument. But Alhaji, the small economics, it is said that you can't run the country without taxation. Alhaji, you tax to develop the people. If we are not taxing, if we are not creating opportunities to make money for, like industrialization, creating factories, then Alhaji will always be at the beg of the outside world that we have complained of. I hope you are. So I think that let's don't be playing politics and trying to blame each other on the tax. But how is the taxpayers' money being used? Corruption, inflation of projects, value for money. I think that that is where, if at the end of the day, the only money is 5 million Ghana cedi, Ghanaians should get a judicious use of the 5 million Ghana cedi. If it's road, let's get a quality road. Alhaji has been a road minister. If the contractor did a scheduled job, you have a way of punishing the contractor, withholding his payment. Make sure he does a quality work that can last for over 20, 50 years. So Alhaji, we are getting a quality and a value for the money we invest, we are taxing. But if we could keep taxing the people and keep dissipating the money anyhow, at the end of it all, the people will become more exhausted and pressured that they will have to revolt and say we won't go that direction again. I hope you are getting the argument. So I think that no government will come, and we are yet to be promised that maybe, I don't know whether it's in the manifesto of the largest opposition that they are coming to rule this country without taxation. But other economies are, let's expand the tax. Why are we expanding the tax? We are expanding the tax to rake in more revenue. For what? For development. And Alhaji, if we are able to do match 60% of the loophole, corruption, Ghana, we are not bad, and we are lucky. We can go places.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mujib. Just a message from Hadi in Pig Farm says, I don't want to say anything about the increment in electricity because I didn't vote for change. Neither am I I'm there to be a partaker of the change. And I'm so surprised to see and hear people still supporting this deceitful Nanado Baumia family and friends change. Change the change in 2020 before the change will change you. If I may ask, where is okay. Ambassador.
Well, as I sat down, I was reading
The Quranic injunctions on sexuality education. And my instinct is that Dr. Bawumia, as a devout Muslim, he has 2 days as our vice president to declare his stand on this education. Because you can't be a Muslim and for that reason you were elected as a vice president. Because you remember, he said he wanted to bring a balance between Islam and Christianity in the Flagstaff House. So if the Christians who swear by the Bible are not doing what he should do, he, as a Muslim, has a responsibility, a religious Muslim. You see, in Islam, you don't joke with their principles. So Bahamia has 3 days to take his stand for or against what the his chief imam said. Alhaji, Sana, I think we are in a comedy of errors when it comes to increases in taxes and other things. Because for the first time in the lexicon of this country, we heard about affordability. You remember that? Yeah. Affordability. When a member of the NPP, my friend Ken Dapa, said, increasing taxes is not the issue, but the people's ability to pay is more germane. Now, in economics, if you hold, the only time you can do a proper evaluation is when you hold one thing constant. But if you leave that constant, then there will be a lot of imbalance. Under these circumstances, what have we held constant? Now, the poor ordinary worker for the past 3 years had not received any salary increase. So salary is constant. Now, even if they have received any salary increase, it is not substantial enough. Now, Somebody, you said 10%. What is the percentage of the total cumulative percentage of the increases in utilities? What is the total? Calculate that also for me.
No, but
And even when you decided to increase the salary to 12%, it is taking effect next year. I have been a trade unionist all my life. I've been a trade unionist all my life. From 77 up to 86, I was a top trade unionist in this country. And Kwesi knows that when we go for negotiation, we even backdate it so that we can get back pay to compensate them for all the cost of living. We even negotiate for cost of living allowances. But you know that. But in your government, when you negotiate for salaries, you put it in next year. That's the way you did the single spine. You know, you negotiated the single spine and uploaded it for the next government. The issue of tariffs has become such an albatross on the Ghanaian. Forget about those 127 ministers who do not pay electricity bill. Forget about them. Forget about all the people who don't pay taxes, electricity bills. The issue now is this. Sana, if you are going to introduce taxes in economics, you introduce it like Kunin, gradually. Alhaji, that is how people can assimilate the taxes. But in 1 month, you increase electricity bill. In the same month, you increase water bill. The same month, you increase what? Talk tax. What is this sensibility? So if a worker salary, the worker salary is, let's say, 1,000 Ghana cedis a month, which is even one of the highest. Then you take this 12.5 or so percent, boom, 1 month. How is the worker going to plan? And you know that as soon as you increase water bill and water rate and others, landlords will automatically also increase their rents. Truck drivers will also increase their rates. So it is like this government had tied the hands of a Ghanaian worker in the ring and is just boxing it left and right. How do we survive? How does an ordinary Ghanaian worker survive that 1 month? The talk small is going to talk to his wife small, you have increased it. His internet that he's going to use to even research to improve himself, if he's in school to do his research, you have taxed it. Yet you told me, boss, yet you told me that it is only a lazy economics that people depend on taxes. And that when you come into office, you are going to do production and not taxation. How much productivity have you increased? How much? How many of the factories you said that were going to employ people have you put it together? In your constituency, the $1 million that you said you were going to give to the people so that they can re-energize the economy, if it hasn't gone, how are you getting people employed? A texter asked me what we are going to do with NAPCO. NAPCO is useful to the participants, but we in NDC, we are going to maintain the NAPCO, but we are going to make the NAPCO people useful to the country. Do you see the difference? You cannot just say that I've gathered people, I'm paying them, and I don't even find job for them, because it is the duty in labor law. It's the duty of employer to find job and tools for the worker. Not so. You are doing labor law, you know it. But if you have not given any job to it's not the fault of the NAPCO people. But if you have employed me, and I'm just sitting down in the house and you are paying me, is that productivity? So I am saying that all the people in NAPCO, NDC will put them to effective use to themselves and to the economy. Productivity is the cause of it. Now, coming back to these utility increases, you said it that it's about time that we stop doing politics with that. It is important. But it's also important that the vice president does not become the public relations officer of the PURC.
Yes.
The vice president does not become the PRO of the PURC. Is it his duty to announce changes?
No, it's not the one announced. It was announced at PURC.
And is it his duty to trumpet it?
No, it is when you started bashing government that responded.
Chief, the vice president office is a very serious one. It's a very, very serious one. And it was my friend ABA Fuseni who says that if a lion visits the market too frequently, he'll be taken like as a dog. This our vice president is becoming too frequent on issues of just mere propaganda. What is his business? Does he feel what we are feeling as workers? Does he feel it? And that, look, if increases have been made, all you can say that we have done better than the NDC.
Yeah.
What a joke. You have done better than the NDC. So what? Is that the reason why we voted for you? The fact that we have increased salaries. Sir, do you know that petrol have also been increased? Do you know? We have increased petrol. Now it's about 24 cedis per liter. 24. The same worker is taking 24 cedis. The same worker is taking about 11% to pay tariffs. You are asking what we use the money for. Are you asking me? If the government had not unilaterally reduced electricity prices, tariffs, they would not have been in the crisis that we are in now.
Okay.
Because that reduction was political, not economic.
Okay.
Oh, just one minute. You see, Masa, if the PDS had paid the money needed to revamp the ECG, they would not be carrying for tariff increases. They won't. They will not. So ask the PDS, people who are supposed to be paying to the PDS, because they were supposed to inject capital, in terms of money and also efficiency, technology. Have they introduced it?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
So you
Ambassador.
can't slap me and close my mouth not to cry.
Thank you, Ambassador. Kojochumbafu says, I am enjoying this program so much. Please ask Uncle Sampi to explain the sexy feeling to me. I'm
Sexy
not sure
feeling?
if I have ever felt sexy, Mr. Pat.
Oh, Kojo, for us, I'm going to.
We still don't have a confirmation as to when we're going to play the documentary.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
we don't know.
Comprehensive. But is it a program schedule? What about Brazil de facto and so on? So let us know.
Yeah,
and
let
then
us.
we can announce it before we go. But look, we have 5 minutes left. And it's impossible to discuss such a topic in 5 minutes. So I'm just going to say that I don't think that the arithmetical voodooism of the vice president was intended to be taken seriously. It seems to me that it was meant to be a joke, and we should keep it at that. I mean, this statement about my increase is better than your increase, what does it really mean? My increase is better than your increase. Did they promise to come and give us an increase which is better than the NDC increase? Or they promised to reduce tariffs if they came into power? And have tariffs been reduced since they came into power? And so on. These are the crucial questions, As for this voodooism, let's drop it. It's not even worth
talking about
discussion. Let's drop it. The vice president should see himself more seriously. Because if he doesn't take himself serious, nobody is going to take him serious. And I think it's about time he began seeing himself more seriously than he's doing now. My increase is better than your increase. What kind of English is that?
Meanwhile, the workers are suffering.